Hello, happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday.
Thanks for joining. Where are you calling from today?
I am calling from New York.
I am in Fort Lauderdale today. I was in Austin yesterday and I'll be in the Bay Area shortly. What part of New York?
I'm on the Upper East Side. Well, actually, no, right now in Flatiron. Normally, I live on the Upper East Side.
Okay, I was on Upper West Side. My dad had some fashion stores on Broadway back in the 80s, so that's when I lived out there. Well, thanks for joining. Tell me a little bit more about the business and how you serve your customers.
Sure. So Debbie empowers the 99% to be more motivated with their money. So essentially, the way we do that is by rewarding consumers for positive financial behavior. So think of us a little bit like the reverse of credit card points. So rather than
Mm.
earning points for spending money, our users earn points for saving, paying off debt, making on-time payments, essentially doing things that are good for them with their money.
Oh,
Um,
interesting. And then how do you find your customers?
Good question. So a lot of our users find us organically now through, social media or directly, word of mouth from their friends. We do some paid media as well on social, primarily on Meta. And then we have a really robust referral program. So a lot of our users refer their friends. Obviously, they get a little bonus as well. I think right now the sign up bonus is like $10 or $15, but we're probably gonna raise that for a little bit. But yeah, lots of different places. But I'd say we have a pretty big presence right now on social.
I've used Mint before years ago. Is it similar to that experience?
It's similar from the perspective of linking your accounts. Like that's probably
Yeah.
the only similarity that's there
Okay.
is being able to see all of your accounts in one place. Although I'd say that, we are less of what I like to call a budgeting app, right? You think about Mint or Rocket Money or all these apps. They're sort of traditional budgeting apps. A lot of folks get a little bit of anxiety around budgeting. And so, our goal is essentially be the anti-budgeting app. So it's not, we don't have a ton of robust features around, setting up different spend categories and other things, but it's more about kind of holistic goal setting. Excuse me.
So you've paid out $50,000 so far to people
Actually, more
for,
now.
oh, more.
That's
Okay.
yeah, it's definitely more now. That's outdated. It's closer to like double that at this point.
So it's a really unique idea. I've worked on some different financial literacy programs, like with colleges and things. We've done like songs and like music videos and things to teach you. But this is really much more experiential and more, more practical. Where did the idea come from?
Yeah, so my co-founder and we went to college together. She graduated with about $15,000 in credit card debt on top of her student loans. Went through her own journey of paying that off. And at the same time, she went to work at Marcus by Goldman Sachs. So, it was
Mm.
her first year of the business. Their only product at the time was personal loans. She really bought into it because, she herself had refinanced her credit card debt with a personal loan. And she really believed in
Got
the
it.
mission that they were going to help other people do that as well. And then she worked on the credit risk side. So she essentially looked at the data and saw that more than half of the borrowers were rebounding back to the same level of credit card debt within less than a year. So very similar to what you see
In
in
less than a year.
less than a year. Yeah. I
Wow.
mean, it's the same thing that you see in weight loss.
Yeah, I was gonna
It's
say, yeah.
shocking, but it's not shocking, right? Anybody who's on a journey to, change their situation is really motivated in the beginning. And then, when the goalpost is so far away, it's very easy to fall off when you're not seeing immediate progress. And so that's really where we came in is to build a platform that celebrates your wins early on, helps take those very large goals and split them up into much smaller, more manageable ones. And I think that was really our innovation is in making financial goal setting a lot more psychologically palatable.
Very interesting. And then what's the growth rate so far? Like, do you have a lot of users yet?
Yeah, so we have more than doubled our user base in the last year. A big part of that is because, the way that we generate revenue and the way that we grow is through our bank partners. So
Hmm.
the app is entirely free to consumers. We don't charge the consumer
Okay.
anything. The way that they're able to get access is by being a member, having an account with one of our bank partners. If they don't already, which most folks don't, because we work primarily with credit unions that are a lot smaller, we help them open an account. So we match them with a partner in our network. We help them open an
Okay.
account. They link that back in order to redeem their rewards. And so we've been growing our partner network over the last year and a half or so. And that's kind of been the biggest driver of our growth is growing out that partner network so that we can support having more and more users on the platform for free.
So most people are coming in through either a partner or through a referral from somebody they know. Is that right?
Correct. only 10% of our user base comes directly from the partner itself. So we're actually more
Okay.
of a lead gen funnel for our partners on the other end,
I
right? They're
see.
coming to us because they're looking to grow. They obviously, we encourage them to share it with their existing customers or members as well, because, that's a benefit to them and free acquisition for us. But yeah, they're coming to us because they're looking to grow. They're looking for, a cheaper cost of acquisition, a more engaged member, someone who, is highly motivated.
So if someone wants to try it out, they just go to your website and you click get started. Is it an app or a website? What are the
It's an app.
experience?
Yeah. So the onboarding here is you're just seeing web, but yeah, it's fully app based.
Got it. Very interesting. And then how are you leveraging AI to help people and to grow your business?
Yeah, I mean, we started the company before the whole AI craze. So I think, when we started to see the technology come out, we were really kind of racking our brain initially to figure out what are the best use cases for us. Because I think, trying to go on a whole goose chase and, putting in different like financial advisor features into the
Mhm.
app was going to be premature for us, especially given, I don't think the technology was there yet at the time that we were initially exploring it. But where it has been incredibly helpful has been in our curriculum. So, one of the key features inside the app that we're constantly updating is our curriculum, which I like to call Noom for finance. So if you've ever heard
Mhm.
of Noom in the weight loss space, their big innovation was creating a curriculum around behavioral psychology and health and wellness. So they basically said, knowing how many calories are in a cookie is not necessarily going to get you to not eat the cookie, in the same way that, knowing how interest works and how APR works is not necessarily going to
Oh,
get you to
okay.
not buy the TV, right? Like Frida and I, we both studied finance, and yet she got herself into credit card debt. So it wasn't that she was financially illiterate.
Mm.
It's that, she figured, okay, I'm going to get a good job after school and I'm going to kick this can down the road and I'm going to have fun for now. And she was right to a certain extent, right? She did end up getting a good job that she was able to pay off that debt, but that's not the case for everybody. And I think a
A
lot
lot
of
of
people
people
forget.
can't. Yeah.
Right. And people, a lot of the users on our platform, they know a lot of this information already. So it's not a matter of being financially illiterate. It's a matter of being behaviorally illiterate, actually. It's more about decision
So
making.
is it the awareness of your own behaviors or awareness of
Yeah,
what behaviors or like best practices or get you
both.
to meet your goals?
Yeah, I'd say it's definitely, I mean, a big part of it is awareness of your own behavior. So understanding your cognitive biases, your triggers.
Mm.
So again, a lot of our curriculum is around cognitive behavioral therapy. So back to the question about AI, we use, we're constantly creating new content in the curriculum. And so we definitely leverage AI to speed that process up so that we're able to get new content out regularly. And then the other place is, yeah, obviously on the social media side where we're using, AI quite prolifically just to create new content ideas and things like that to promote the app. But I'd say that's where it's been the most helpful. Goal, hopefully long term, I want to see a future in which, we can launch a financial advisor tool where if a user has a specific problem and they want to figure out what, product is best for them, that we're able to build this out where it can really intake information and understand your current situation a lot better. So it's not, if I just ask, oh, hey, I'm looking for credit cards, what's the best one? Obviously that's a very general question. I want to be able to have a situation in which I coming to you and say, hey, I'm a single mother of 3 kids and here's how much money I make and here's my current debt load and how should I prioritize my goals and what are the best options for me going
Mhm.
forward. So getting really, really personalized. And I think that requires a lot more work versus just taking an existing kind of
Like I
GPT.
wear a Whoop device, and one of my favorite features of it is it gets me into a situation where I don't have to go to bed early every night.
Yeah,
I just have to do it sometimes. So it's like aware of my, how much I've rest, my heart rate variability,
yeah,
and I look at it and it sort of like says, okay, go to bed at 7:30 because like the yesterday it's like I was up in Austin until about 2 in the morning, and then I had a flight at 7, so woke up at like 5:30 and had 3 hours of sleep. So the next night it's like, okay, well, you need to catch up and you need to go to bed like pretty early. And
yeah,
then I kind of it has a chat bot, right? So I can negotiate it with it. I'm like, well, I have to go to this thing, so I can't really do it. Can I do it later in the week? And it's like, well, if you really can't do it tonight, definitely do tomorrow. So it's like
yeah,
interesting how it really changes your behavior, but it's next level because you can negotiate it like you would with like I guess kind of like a parent if the parent
yeah.
was asking you to do this, or you know, a coach or mentor. And so you're doing some similar things like within your experience as well.
Not yet. I would say that that's a place we want to go, right?
Got it.
So where you're asking, where we're using AI, we're not currently doing that for this particular use case, but I'd say that is definitely the future for us. And
More to analyze the behaviors. Well, that's really interesting. And then for your partners, are they all banks, or what kind of institutions are you looking for there?
primarily credit unions. We have some
Credit
fintechs,
unions.
and we're talking to banks right now as well. We started in the credit union space for two reasons mainly. One was when we were looking at who to partner with for our users, and who we felt was going to have the most benefit for our users, especially in a high interest rate environment. The credit unions really stood out because they had some of the best rates that were just not promoted anywhere, that most
Hmm.
people didn't know about. So we have
Okay.
some credit unions that were offering 9 or 10% APR on a refinance loan, in a market where the average APR on a credit card refinance was close to 17, 18, even upwards of
Wow.
20%, right? So like it was significant cost savings for our users. And then on the checking and savings side, we had some credit unions that were offering high yield checking at like 5%. Obviously there were some requirements. You had to make a certain number of debit transactions every month in order to qualify for that rate, but
Got
still
it.
5% APY on checking, like who's doing that, So I think those were some of the things that we know. That was the first reason. The second reason is, as far as the need for them, they struggle the most to acquire and engage younger consumers, which is, we target sort of
Mhm.
millennial, squarely millennial, some Gen Z, and even older as well. But like they really struggle with
Are
these
the
younger generations.
alphas in the banking world yet? I saw
Uh,
some memes about alphas turning 18s.
yeah, it's a good point. We haven't gotten there, but it's a good point for us to think
I've heard they
about.
use I heard they LinkedIn as a dating app, so they're sort of bypassing
God,
college. Part of like you're not getting into debt, so they see everyone getting into debt. They're like, there's no point in going to college. I'm just gonna get on LinkedIn and like find some internships and jobs.
right,
So they're doing that very smartly, but in the process, they're kind of like, and they're not allowed on LinkedIn, so it's like you have to be 18, but they'll lie about their
right,
age to do it. And then when they're on there, they like they're connected to their friends, obviously, and they're like using it because they're also looking at the dating apps. Like, hey, I don't want any part of that. That looks like a hot
right.
mess. So the college is a mess, dating's a mess. We're gonna kind of define some, and they're using LinkedIn as a platform to do that, which is really not what I would have expected.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that, just because I know some people who have had like very negative experiences of people reaching out to them unsolicited on LinkedIn, but that's funny. I definitely think that, yeah, some of the younger generations are a lot more, and like Gen Alpha is a lot more conscious about what their career options are early on. I think
Yeah.
there's a lot more content out there, and I think they're influenced by influencers who are making a lot of money, and they see that and they say, oh, like I could also do this, right?
So
Like
I've heard Gen Z is more like fiscally conservative than millennials. Is that right?
based on what we've seen, generally, yes. I'd say they're generally more conservative and anxious about everything, not just money. It's just cuts
And then
across a
is
lot.
Alpha expected to be even more conservative, or do they have a different narrative for
It's a good
how they're
question.
thinking about things?
I don't know the answer to that. That is a good question. My hypothesis is that pendulums swing, and so each generation is sort of goes back the opposite way. And so if you're seeing them kind of be very conscious of generating income, and looking at these influencers wanting to be like them, I don't know that they're going to be as conservative as the Gen Z. I think Gen Z's
Hmm.
kind of came in during a time where they were convinced that like the world is on fire and everything's kind of crashing and burning, and like politics and the environment and right, like all these different things. And so I think that's kind of what has made them conservative, is just a general feeling of anxiety and feeling like it's all kind of pointless. I don't know that Gen Alpha has that same point of view.
They might be
I
bigger
think,
spenders and need your
yeah,
solution.
yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I think that's true.
Well,
Well,
very
but
cool.
I would say that for us it's not just about spending. Like I think that for Gen Zs it's just as much of a problem, people who what I call savings hoarders. I think that's just as much of a problem as the people who spend too much. Right? You look at people like there's this influencer, I forget his full name, but I think the TikTok account is called Bradley on a Budget. And his whole shtick is that he doesn't spend any money. He like has been he goes to crazy lengths to not spend money, and he's fully aware that that is a trauma response. He says this on his account, that this is a trauma response, but he has no interest in being any other way. He's like totally fine with the fact that it's very
I
You know,
recall
as
I
a
recall Gen X was like that, but I think we just didn't have a lot of like things to buy. Like, it's sort of just
right,
normal to
right.
you're young, you're saving, you're investing. We
Now,
had the option of making down payments. We were like saving for our house. And so
right.
we were like,
Now there's unlimited things to buy, and we wanna
yeah.
travel, we wanna go to concerts, and we wanna do all these things.
I think I bought a house before I bought my first Starbucks. Like that just wasn't a thing you did. Like that was
Yeah,
sort of like, like I think I owned a house and then it was like, okay, I got that done. Now I can maybe buy a Starbucks.
right.
But it's very, very different now. There's also a lot fewer, like all the housing is luxury and all the things marketed are like a lot more luxurious. And so it's a different dynamic with the generations. I wonder
Yeah. The thing I
Alpha
worry
will
about
end
more
up.
the thing I worry about more with Gen Z is their income earning ability, mainly because I think the trends I see in Gen Z just in terms of work ethic overall,
Is it
and
the
this is
is it the earning or is it the rent? No matter what they earn, the rent's so high and the housing's so high, it's hard to save.
No, I mean, I'm not talking about savings right now. I'm saying just in
Okay.
general, like what they're like the issues that they're facing overall, not just financially, just overall. And this is not we have Gen Z employees who are great. But what I've seen generally across Gen Z is this mentality and it depends on whether your parents are, second, third generation Americans, people who, will support you no matter what. So a lot of people still live at home after college.
Yeah.
But generally what I've seen with them is, if they're not 100% fully excited about what they're doing in their job, a lot of them are more willing to just like up and quit even if they don't have something lined up, right now. Like I've never had that experience, meaning I've had jobs that I hated, but it didn't like I was never going to quit just because I hated it unless I had something else to do. I think that's not the case with Gen Z. I think a lot of Gen Zs, at least the ones that I've met and kind of interacted with,
I've heard they'll
they
ghost. Like those ghosts are employers.
100%. No, and by the way, part of it is Zoom, right? I think is also an issue. Like when we were interviewing folks for internships, I'd say, only about 50% of the people that we actually invited and set up a meeting with like would show up or show up on time for that matter. Maybe they would show up, but they would show up like 10, 15 minutes late. Some of them were really apologetic, but most of them just kind of like pretended like it didn't happen at all, like that they just came on time. So that's what I mean when I say like I'm worried about the income earning ability because I think that right now it's like they don't realize how much they're losing and how they're kind of being viewed in the
One of the things I go to these family office events sometimes. One lesson I learned there was some of the people there are like part of billionaire families. Sort of like what's the difference between, I guess millionaires and billionaires. The billionaires would turn everything into a race. Like it was sort of like dinner was at 7:30, drinks were at 6:30. They'd show up at 6:15 and like the bartender's not there yet. And they're just pouring their own drinks. Like it's like that punctuality, timeliness. I think there's a huge correlation to wealth and income
I agree.
where when you at the billionaire extreme, you're like, oh, everything's a race. I just want to get there first. Doesn't matter if there's a word or not. Like life is just a race. And then and the other extreme, if you're like, oh yeah, I'll just show up late to an interview. It doesn't matter. Yeah, I've had people do that when I've interviewed, and they, I wouldn't even. I was like, I'm not going to interview you because you didn't, we had an appointment. You didn't pick up the phone or call back right away.
100%. 100%.
So,
So that
so
that's my challenge with them. And so I do think there's plenty of jobs out there that'll pay them a good amount of money. Obviously rent's
yeah,
expensive.
there's actually more jobs than ever. Like we have historically, but the
Yeah.
jobs don't necessarily pay enough for rent, which I think is also. It's
They
not that
they
there's
pay
not.
they pay enough. It's not as much savings as it used to be. Meaning the
Yeah,
amount that you're going to be paying in addition to all the other things you want to do. You're definitely not saving as much as the previous generations are saving. That's for
yeah.
sure. But if you're also not working and you're expecting your parents to kind of help you out while you don't have a job because you didn't like the one you had and you're looking for a new one for like 9 months, that's I think there is a bit of the situation of an over reliance on very nice parents who are kind of coddling their kids.
Well, good stuff. Though this has been very intriguing. Thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.